Welcome back to Folk in the Front Room. Special guest today is Chico Holton, who's come to see us in the front room here, and he's going to be doing a few numbers, which we'll be doing later. So I just want to have a little chat with you, Chico, about your musical career and when did it start. So what age did you start doing anything musical, and how did you start? What was the beginning?
When I was 14 years old.
You was a little one.
I still am. Oh, you want more?
Yeah, 14. What did you learn?
I heard Dwayne Eddy.
Okay.
You've ever heard of Dwayne Eddy?
I have heard of him, yeah.
Dwayne Eddy was a famous rock guitarist back when I was 14. That would have been about 1958.
Uh-huh.
And I heard him on probably Radio Luxembourg. And the sheer sound and the volume of his beautiful Gretsch guitar drove me wild.
So it's the guitar that you liked?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh. Right.
And I heard, prior to that, I heard mainly American music, like doo-wop music and rock and roll, of course, Elvis Presley, Ricky Nelson, Buddy Holly, all those great artists. But it was Dwayne Eddy that made me want to play guitar.
Okay. And so what did you go out? Did you go straight out and buy a guitar at 14?
My mum bought me one, my
Oh,
mummy. I think she paid £2.50 for it. It was totally unplayable.
Uh-huh.
The neck was like a tree trunk. I could barely get my little hands around it. And it was the strings were about 5 inches at the other end, away from the frets. The only thing it did for me was it convinced me that I did want to learn, even though it was unplayable. I bashed away with it. Mm-hmm. But it's that was my introduction, Dwayne Eddy. And then I bought Dwayne Eddy's third LP called "The Twang's the Thang." They don't write them like that.
No, they don't.
"The Twang's the Thang," and he played a track on there called "Trombone." And that was written by somebody called, at the time, Chet Atkins. And I thought, I like that tune. I wonder who that is. And I went out and bought, eventually, I think I was about 16 by then, and I bought an LP. Remember those?
Yeah.
I bought an LP for 14 and 9pence, maybe 14 and 7pence even. And it was Chet Atkins. And my life changed because he didn't play with a plectrum, a pick.
Okay.
He played with his nails. He was a finger picker.
Right.
And I thought, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's all I've ever wanted to do since, really.
Finger picking. So did you start out strumming when you first started at 14?
Yes, with a plectrum.
Plectrum, okay. So it was quite soon afterwards that they then learned how to pick?
I didn't learn. That's what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
And I started to do very basic, alternate bass notes, which we used to play folk quite often. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a rock and roll star, but I didn't. And back then in the 60s, that would have been the 60s, that would have been the early 60s. As I said, 1960 when I heard Chet Atkins. By the late 60s, about 67, 68, a friend introduced me to folk music, which fell quite into the finger picking style of, and so I drifted through that then for the next 50 years.
And so have you always been in Warminster? Have you always lived in Warminster?
Born and bred,
right, okay. Local lad. So in the Warminster, so you must have done every flipping folk club locally, because if I've mentioned a club to you, you've known it. Have you played in every club in Wiltshire and further afield?
Quite possibly over the years. But I was always one that I always wanted to know what was over the hill a little bit, the other man's grass and all that thing. Uh-huh. I enjoyed nothing more really than going further afield. I used to go to Windsor and Eton Club, of course Bath and Bristol. The metropolises of Warminster. I played in a fair few over the years.
And did you go to London and play in clubs over there?
I used to go to the Troubadour.
Right.
Only because it was the place. I used to buy the Melody Maker, as all young budding musicians would have done.
Yeah.
And you could see who was playing at the Troubadour every week, and I thought, I wouldn't mind going there.
Uh-huh.
So I did.
And did you do floor spotting?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's the general rule of thumb, isn't it? You go out and say, please, can I sing a song, please?
Yeah. But they've always got open. They didn't call them open mics then. What did they call them?
Come all ye.
Come all ye, right? Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah. It's going back a bit. I don't know if they probably still call them that.
No, I think that's only old people like that. Not me. I don't think.
Yeah.
You're just the youngster.
So you played in all these clubs, and then you had a radio station for a while, didn't you?
No, I had a show on a radio station.
Okay, right.
Not multi-millionaire yet. It's only a little local, Warminster local community radio station, which was great fun. It was great fun. I think I was on there about 9 years, presenting a show every Monday night. But it used to blow my weekends because I used to play records to myself all weekend and plan my show because it was a 3-hour show. When I started it, I had it for 4 hours. But the last hour I was asleep, so they took me off the last hour. But I played mainly roots music. It was called the Roots and Roll Show for the reason I played lots of roots music, folk, blues, country. The country got bigger, but also the roll bit was rock and roll. So I used to play 1950s, 60s music because I still love that kind of music. And but I did 9 years near as damn it on that show.
But you had a lady follower, didn't you? And you met her in the flesh at one point. Who was that?
I met her she came from Vancouver.
And didn't you meet her in Nashville?
Met her in Nashville, yeah. I was in a record shop, Ernest Tubbs record shop. And I had a light bulb moment with something that was playing on the sound system. And I flew down to the counter and said, excuse me, who's that? Never heard that song. And I thought those American rascals, they kept all the great music to themselves and sent all the rubbish over here. But it was the greatest country song I'd ever heard. So I flew to the desk and I said, excuse me, can you tell me who that is, please? And the woman with her back to me said, oh, my dear, she said, that's Ray Price. Never heard of him. Blimey, what a great singer. Flew back to the Ray Price section and she joined me. And I walked into, not knowing it, Ray Price's greatest fan in the world.
Right.
I mean, the track that I heard was a big hit in 1956. I think it spent something like 16 weeks at number 1 and about 40 odd weeks on the American country charts. It was a huge record. Yeah. I never heard it before. So, yeah, and she used to tune in from Vancouver every Monday. And a friend of hers down the road used to listen as well, which I thought was so cool.
It was lovely.
Because they used to email me live when I was on air, which was great. Yeah. But I packed the radio show in because I'm very quick on the uptake. I realised when I used to go out to clubs that I was getting fed up with the songs I was singing. A bit like the audiences, really. They were not that one again. And I suddenly realised that I hadn't written any songs. And I thought, about 9 years. And light bulb, because I was doing this show.
Right.
So I left the show to go back to a bit of writing. Sadly, I haven't written too much, but I'm always piddling with new stuff.
Okay, so there's new stuff still coming out.
Oh, it comes out every day, but it's disappeared by the end of the day. That's the trouble. I've only written one in the last couple of years that I've kept. A tune called 70 Year and 10.
Okay.
Which is rather apt, of course.
Yeah.
Very current. I was going to write it when I was 60, but I blinked. And suddenly the 10 years had gone because it was the 70 Year and 10. I wanted to write it on the upcoming. Yeah. So I wrote it. I wrote about the blink, really. Okay. And suddenly I was 70. And so I wrote it then.
But you've done lots of clubs. Remember when I first started the Bath Acoustic Club? Chica was there my first night when we opened it, and you turned up and you did your thing. And
a new club. Had to put my face in.
Pardon?
It was a new club, so I had to go and...
Yeah. But you were there all the way through that I was running it, and then Chico took it over when I resigned or whatever the word.
Well, only because it was a good club. I mean, you ran a good club.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, I thought I'd get
it's now in my front room, yeah.
What I got to do to get into Mary's front room. But yes, it was a good club. Very open-minded club.
Yeah, there wasn't too many rules or regulations. The only thing that I stipulated, because I talk about this on an earlier podcasty thing, that don't like it when people are talking. That drive me crazy. If somebody's sitting there in an acoustic environment to talk and yak in front of them, I think is sacrilegious.
That's a throwback or a come over from folk clubs, because folk clubs are run along those lines, as you know. I mean, you don't sort of chit chat in a folk club, and you don't get up halfway through someone's song. You sit there and cross your legs and wait until they finish and then run to the loo. But the etiquette, I think, is the word.
Yeah, and I think that can be a thing that's lost, but we're not going to be reminiscing about that. That can be reattained. But the important thing for yourself is that you've got a musical knowledge, okay, tons of musical knowledge, like you say, you like the 60s and the 50s as well?
Yes.
50s and 60s. So
I've gone backwards.
I reckon.
I went backwards. I'm obsessed with 50s music.
Okay.
Without the 50s, the 60s wouldn't have happened. I know it's a bit of a silly statement and an obvious statement.
But you said before that Elvis Presley is someone that you respect.
Yes. Yeah, of course you do.
Uh-huh.
The Everly Brothers
Uh-huh.
came up with one of the greatest statements of all time. They were asked, did Elvis open any doors for you? And they said, no, he kicked them down,
Right.
which I think was the way to look at Elvis.
Mm-mm-mm.
So yeah, all that early rock. But I like the people that influenced him as well. So,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He was very influenced by country and blues, which is where rock and roll came from, really. Coming together with those two.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so have you enjoyed your musical career? Not that we're saying that you're at the end of it, but have you enjoyed so
I think
far?
I probably am. I think I've loved, even today at this great age, I still could sit all day and play guitar. I think is the most relaxing, beautiful thing that I could do. I love it. Yeah, I'd like to have made a few million, or 1 million would have been...
$500,000?
We'll keep going. But yeah, I would like to have been more successful. But, you know, I've had a few brushes. And
What makes you think you haven't been successful? Because everybody in the West Country knows Chico. You know, I can go places and I'll go, oh, do you know Chico? Yeah, everybody does know you, man.
Well, it's only because there's one of us.
There's only one of you?
Yeah, Chico. I mean,
Yeah.
the other one was a pop singer.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there weren't many... It was a good name to have because everybody remembers it. Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard of Chico. Only because I was the only one. It was an odd name, I suppose. And it had it, you know, it's good if it's good, but oh blimey, not him, you know.
No, well, I've never found that anywhere. But anywhere I've been, nobody's ever said, "Oh God, it's Chico on tonight," because you're accomplished. You know your stuff. You know you can play.
When can I come back? I don't get compliments like this very often. Yeah.
So you're going to carry on playing, I hope, Chico.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got no intention of doing anything else. I loved. There's nothing. What made me used to go out a lot of places is not keep going to the same. Because I like playing new audiences. There's nothing better than have a different crowd of people sat in front of you. Mainly because the same old songs and the same old jokes sort of come alive again. But I do like playing for new audiences. Even like now when I'm doing lots of care homes. Doing the old 50s, 60s rock and roll, pop and country. I still like going to a place I haven't played before.
Right.
Because it's like starting off fresh again. Even with the same old corn, it all comes alive again.
And you do like playing live?
Oh, there's nothing like it. It's the greatest gift, I think, that anyone can have. I'm never happier than I got a guitar on my lap and a crowd in front of me. And say something silly just to lighten the atmosphere. As soon as you get an audience smiling, they're halfway on your side. So say something stupid, get them smiling, and then hit them with a load of rubbish, and you can't go wrong. They still like you at the end, hopefully. Yeah, there's nothing better. I think it's one of the greatest gifts in the world to be able to sit in front of an audience, and they still like you at the end of it.
Well, they're going to still like you if you can play, and that's the difference. You see, you can play.
Well, I'm okay. I wouldn't say I'm anything other than okay. I get by. You know, if I tell enough people enough times that I'm okay, they'll believe it. Hopefully, it's been my motto. You know.
So thank you very much for coming to Folk in the Front Room, and this is our Chico, and I'll put a link to. He's got his own channel on YouTube as well if you want to listen to some more of his songs. So thank you very much for coming today, Chico.
My
really
pleasure.
Nice to have you.
Thank you very much.